What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Castle Magic podcast on financial freedom. And today I have a brilliant guest with me, Mukti Joy, fantastic coach, educator, and entrepreneur in from Singapore. And she has been quite an inspiration in many ways to me, especially when it comes to the way how we deal with our emotions and build emotional wealth. So for those of you guys who don't know the term emotional wealth, we'll get to it in just a little bit. She'll explain to you like what that means, how it works, and also how does that tie into your financial freedom. Especially for those of you guys who have debt, who have been in debt, are in debt, or feel like you have some sort of pattern in which you spend more than you're actually earning and you kind of don't seem to be able to get out of it. She has gone through that journey and actually figured out a little bit of a way of how to actually reverse it and change it. Mukti, thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Toma, for inviting me here. And I'm so excited to share my story. I think this is something as new entrepreneurs or even seasoned entrepreneurs, we always struggle with balance sheets and we always struggle with the life that we've built for ourselves and this idea that, oh, now I need to struggle.
Mhm.
And then we always look at, but how can I live without, a certain set of luxuries that I've built for myself. And having gone through this journey over the past few years, I really fully understand how once we actually build emotional wealth, physical wealth actually multiplies. And your outer world is just a reflection of your inner world.
Mhm.
And for a very simple definition, emotional wealth is really your inner universe. It's not what's in your physical bank account, it's in your inner bank account. The joy, the gratitude, the self-worth that you feel. Like, do you feel worthy of abundance? Do you have a regulated nervous system? I know nervous system regulation is kind of a buzzword now in 2026. And we will explore more of that in this conversation that we have because it is a very valid idea and a very valid connection to both emotional and physical wealth.
Cool. Yeah, wow. Thank you so much. I'm excited for that. And fully agreed. Nervous system regulation is something that many people struggle with as well. So I love that you already shared like how it feels like the inner bank account, man. That's such a nice metaphor. Because I wanted to understand, well, before we get into it, like tell us a little bit how you got here. What was your journey? What even drew you to this connection? Like how did you even get here?
I guess, because I'm based in Singapore and I'm Singaporean, and in Asian culture, it's quite a hustle culture. So I grew up with the Singaporean dream, which is quite unlike the American dream, where we're not chasing freedom. We've been conditioned to chase the five C's, which is all physical wealth related. It's cash, condominium, which is like a very expensive private housing in Singapore. It's car, and if you know the Singapore car market, no car costs below $500,000 US. So we've all been conditioned since school to chase physical wealth symbols. And because of that, you just work like crazy, you overwork yourself, you burn out, and that's just normal. So I grew up that way, chasing the next promotion, chasing the next dream, the next higher paycheck. And I remember on my vision board, even when I was working in other schools, that because I have a teaching certificate, and after I got my teaching certificate, I started working in education in different levels of schools. And the higher the level you go to, the more your pay increases. So I was chasing the best school in Asia because that's what I guess as a typical Singaporean, the dream is whichever field you are in. If you are a lawyer, you got to make it to the top four. If you're a banker, you got to make it to the top four. For some reason, it's always the top four, the big four.
Hmm. There's always
So
four, huh? Nice.
there's just four. There's just the big four. And if you made it to the big four, you made your parents proud.
Okay.
It was just that way. And so I remember after 10 years of hustling, I got to the best school in Asia. And when I finally got in after struggling and a lot of hard work, I was like, I'm not happy. Like, I've made it to my dream that society has convinced me that this is me living my dream. And I remember even my manifestations, that was all I dreamt about. Like, even on my laptop screen, I manifested it. Yes, I manifested it. And obviously, I did a lot of aligned work and hard work and courses to get in. And just so you know, I applied over 30 times. That was how determined I was to get in, like 30 times over multiple years until I think at some point they were like, okay, we gotta let her in. So
Wow,
I
really?
finally,
No, that's
yeah,
wild. I've
yeah,
never heard that from anybody. Wow.
yeah. If you look at my portal record, it shows like I've tried on one account is like 23 times and I've gone like for multiple interviews to the point where every single principal knew who I was. Um, but anyway,
Cool.
finally got in. And when I finally got in, I was like, I'm not happy. And after a month, I was like, I remember speaking to my therapist. I was just like, I'm not happy. Like, this is supposed to be my dream. I had like a whole manifestation, like my whole life mapped out, which was that now I'm in the best school in Asia. This is the life I'm going to live. You know, my kids are going to, I'm not even married, but I was already planning that my kids are going to attend this school. Like, you know, my whole, like, my next, if you ask in Singapore, a very popular question is, where do you see yourself in the next 20 years?
Mhm.
So I was like, yeah, this is my 20-year plan. And within 1 month of my 20-year plan, I was like, this cannot be my plan. So
Nice.
I was
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, now I'm disappointing my parents. I'm disappointing myself. How do I tell them I want to leave? My parents are finally proud of me.
Mhm.
And my therapist told me about Mind Valley in Europe. And I was like, what is this personal development conference? Like, because nothing, no personal development conference exists in Singapore. It's very business and academia centric. I mean, kids go to school. I went to school Monday to Sunday growing up. It's a very academically challenging environment. So I was like, okay, you know what? I feel lost in life, have no clue what to go, like what to do next. I will check out the personal development space in Europe since it doesn't exist in Singapore. But lo and behold, I can't afford 2 months in Europe because at that point in time, I was still chasing status symbols. So I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I was and to be honest, on a teaching salary, you really can't afford Chanel and Hermes. But I was this teacher who was rocking Hermes and Chanel, not in school, but outside of school. And the only way to do it is to put yourself in debt. So that was what I was doing. I was paying off the bills of my shopping addiction that I felt validated me and gave me self-worth while working 12-hour, 16-hour days. And also at that point in time, I had three jobs. I would work in school, I would do private classes, and I was also working at a tuition center on the weekends, just to live a life that I felt was what I guess a life that I had inherited from the societal values that were subconsciously passed down to me. That to be able to afford a mortgage of this amount, you gotta earn a certain amount of salary. Your take home pay has to be a certain amount. And it's very normal for people in Singapore to have more than one job. It's quite the norm. So anyway, I wanted to go to my first personal development conference since I felt lost in life, but it's really expensive to go from Singapore to Europe and live in Europe for a month or 2 months. So I was like, okay, what is a way to make quick cash? Because I decided a few weeks before the personal development conference had started, and I was like, you're already in debt from all your shopping purchases. I don't want you to go into even more debt and just charge on your credit cards. And at that point in time, I think I had 8 credit cards.
Nice.
And so I was like, okay, you know what? You have bought expensive handbags. I think you can let the first one go, which was a very valuable piece that I knew I could get instant cash. And for those of you all that are familiar with the classic Chanel handbags, the classic always increases in price and is looked upon as an investment piece, which,
Mm.
to be honest, I don't really think any handbag or dress should be an investment piece. But at that point in time, I was in this world that, yes, fashion is investment, bags, jewelry are investment pieces.
Mm.
So I sold the Chanel 2.55 flat back, which now retails for US 12,600 USD.
Wow.
And and obviously, if you sell it secondhand, you're not going to get the price that you paid for. But I was just like, look, I need to invest in myself, and I'm going to Europe. And I just made the decision 3 weeks before this personal development conference, Mind Valley, was starting in Europe. And I was like, look, you are not in the, you do not have the privilege to get quick cash any other way. Just sell that bag. And there are going to be buyers who are willing to get the bag from you. So sold the bag, didn't tell anyone that I sold the bag because I felt that my friends would judge me and would be disappointed in me. Or maybe they would try and convince me otherwise and say that, look, you're making a big mistake. Just get a loan, but do not sell your handbags. So I sold that and
Mm.
bought the ticket to Europe, went to Europe, spent a month at Mind Valley in Estonia. And then after that, went to other personal development conferences in London because at the point in time, I was so desperate and so lost. I was like, I just want to try everything that can fill this void in my heart and soul. So went to a bunch of different personal development conferences around Europe. Came back to Singapore, an entirely different human being. I felt like I had quantum leaped 10 years. I was happier. My friends didn't even recognize who I was. They were like, they have never seen me happier. And before I left, because my cortisol was so high and I was having sleep problems because I was always figuring out how could I pay my bills, and I had so many different debts on different credit cards, and every month I would pay my bills late and call the credit card companies and apologize and make some lame excuse that I was sick or I was traveling and therefore I missed the payment date. Could you please waive the late charges on my account? And it was something I did every month over and over again.
Wow.
And
Mm.
then I came back and I was like, you know what? I don't need any of these things. The kind of joy and fulfillment and validation that I got from people who didn't even know me and without me carrying a single status symbol, I don't need all of these things. And from then on, my journey into personal development started. I started investing in coaches. And again, I was still in debt. So I was like, what else can you sell? So then I was like, now the next thing that goes is so and for shoes, another classic for the fashion girlies is Manolo Blahniks. So I was like, the Manolo's got to go. And so then I sold my Manolos and paid coaches, paid for. I did, I think, two or three coaching certifications with Mind Valley as well. And every time I did one coaching certification or I invested in any other course beyond Mind Valley as well, I've even worked with Toma as well, who's a wonderful coach. I realized what I was getting was so much more meaningful than having these brands in my wardrobe, just sitting
Mm.
there and just me feeling that, oh, I own these things. And that started the journey of like, do people like me if I show up to a place and we're not talking fashion? And if we're not talking like, oh my gosh, I love your Cartier, right? Because that's
Mm.
what I got used to, that I get accepted into a room
Mm.
because of the brands that people can see on me, whether it's clear luxury brands or quiet luxury, it's still
Mm.
luxury. And that was what was fueling my confidence.
Mm.
Can I get my confidence from inside me rather than what is on me? And that led to where I am today, which was that actually, if you can build the confidence from within you and be so authentic with who you are, because all of these things, whether it's makeup, whether it's pretense that your business is doing better than it actually is, or whether it's
That's a good
a
one.
wardrobe full of brands, they're
Mm-hmm.
all masks.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to like, not overnight, but I started to shed one mask at a time. And very interestingly, one of the masks that later got shed, I think this was a year after I met Toma. And Toma was actually the one, I still remember this. This was actually, we were hanging out in the apartment that Toma had rented with like a few cool people. And Mind Valley, and at that point in time, Toma was working for Mind Valley, and
Mm-hmm.
I think they had a slot available for someone to go on stage and share their story. And Toma knew my story of how I overcame depression and anxiety and, changed my life for the better. But that's another story for another time. And he told me more people need to hear the story. Go on stage. I know it's last minute. Go and share your story. And I was like, there is no way I can go on stage. It is way too scary, and I've never spoken publicly before. So I used to be scared of public speaking and the stage as well. And then I think 6 months after that, as I kept on shedding one mask after another mask, I realized this was a mask of visibility. I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid to share my story because, again, I was like, people will judge me and know that I have had maybe a abusive past. And I don't want people to see beyond my picture perfect life. And once I got comfortable with shedding that mask, I then went on stage a year later, not again, nothing is overnight, a year later,
Mm-hmm.
and I shared my story. And when I saw people crying in the audience, I realized, wow, by me shedding my mask of the fear of visibility, I've given permission to other people to feel into their own stories of whether it was pretense or lack of, or maybe what else that they've gone through in their life that they have been hiding as well. So when we shed these masks of pretense and, I mean, Toma is also really good at doing that and being really honest with where his business at. And it takes a lot of courage. But when you get comfortable with that courage, people respect you for it. And you give them permission to also be honest and authentic. And
Mm-hmm.
as a collective, that's where we start shedding our mask and come together and be like, hey, I want to help you. Like, this was a conversation that I still practice and I struggle with every day, even as a new business owner. Because we've been almost fed that, look, if you are a fully booked out coach or fully booked out business, then people want to work with you,
Yeah.
right? Like, you got to seem desirable, right? Whether it's desirable in the sense of I'm carrying that Chanel bag, so this is someone I want to associate myself with, or
Mm-hmm.
whether, oh wow, this coach has a wait list and is so busy, I want to work with that coach. And that was what I was doing last year in my business, pretending to be so busy that
Mm-hmm.
keeping people on hold. And then early this year, I was like, no, this again is another mask. I want to shed that. And just a few days ago, someone asked me about where I'm at with my business. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop pretending. I'm going to be honest and be like, this is where I'm in my business. I am recalibrating myself and going slow because I want to work with people that are aligned. And yes, I'm not earning as much as I would like to at the moment, but I'm happy to do it slowly and to work with people that genuinely bring me joy, to help them and they also feed and bring joy into my life. And then
Beautiful.
this person was so, I guess, taken aback because, again, the place that we were having this conversation is a private members club. So, again, very exclusive, where people are, again, pretending that they are more
Mm.
well off than they actually are, right? Because, again, as
Nice.
a
Mm-hmm.
society, we've been fed that you need to show people that you make more money than you actually do.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have picture perfect life, and that life is just wonderful all the time, and that money just drops on the sky because, you know, uh, that's just how it is. And she was so, I think it was very refreshing for her to to hear someone so honest about where they're at in such a place that actually uh,
Has the
pushes
opposite culture.
the
Yeah.
opposite, that she was just like, you have such great energy. I would love to see how I can support your business and support your growth. And that's the magic that happens when you have the confidence from within and you are not pretending and you show up honestly.
Mm.
People meet you honestly because then
So
they
nice.
also feel that they can shed their mask. If not,
Mm.
it's just two masks coming together and
Mm.
showing, look, my mask is gold, my mask is diamond.
Nice. Let's do a little bit of a segue.
Yeah.
I love the way you put that, and let's take in here the regulation of the nervous system,
Mm,
because I know that feeds a little bit into this whole shedding of mask, right? Where you kind of stop pretending to be someone you're not.
mm,
Um, how would that work? Because I know you really work with people on that, of really regulating the nervous system, and I felt that actually with you, that after some time as well, I could notice that you're not just talking about regulating your nervous system. I would come out of our conversation, I'd be like, man, I feel so refreshed as if I went to a spa for like a weekend. Yeah. And so I really wondered what you did there, and what was your how do you understand the whole subject? Like, how can people regulate their nervous systems?
okay. So, to put it very simply, most of us, and I speak from myself and the culture that I come from in Singapore, we are on survival mode as our default setting.
Mm.
And we've been trained to go, go, go on the survival mode because it works. And we're still able to function, right? We're still able to meet our deadlines. We're still able to fall asleep. But in that survival mode, you do not have mental clarity. You are making decisions out of panic rather than out of clarity. And what feeds into that is that you are leaking money because you are not looking at things from a way of, does this serve me, or do I just have to get this done and over with?
Mm. Mhm.
So yes, you're still functioning fine, life is still okay, your family is happy and healthy, you are happy and healthy, but I happy and healthy is, are you, yes, there is a medical definition of happy and healthy, which means that all your blood work is fine. You don't have any serious illness, but do you have mental clarity? Do you have brain fog? Do you have decision fatigue? Do you procrastinate on things? If all of these things are happening in your life, those are markers that your nervous system is dysregulated.
Mm.
And when your nervous system is dysregulated, you are still functioning on your subconscious patterns. Let me give you an example. So, in Singapore, one of the things that people really love is discount. It's again another part of the Singapore culture where if there's a discount, I have to like just sign and put my name on it. If it's called kiasu culture, it's a really popular thing,
Mm.
being kiasu, which is that if there's a discount, I have to buy it. So
Mhm.
since that was a subconscious pattern, and this is what how it links to nervous system regulation. If your nervous system is not regulated, you are running on subconscious patterns. So a common subconscious pattern is in Singapore is the discount culture. So I used to blindly sign packages if there is a discount. So if and it's a very common thing if you go to any even a food outlet or like a spa or massage place in Singapore, they
Mm.
would get you to sign a package and they'll say, okay, within the next 30 minutes, this offer is going to go. And you have to sign it now. And I would be like, oh my God, then I'll be paying full price. I have to sign it now. And yeah, okay, fine. You sign it now. Nothing's going to happen. Your world is not going to end. But are you, while running on subconscious patterns, are you running from mental clarity that this is what I actually need and serves me at this point in time? And I was just signing it. It's like, yeah, obviously I need a massage all the time. So a massage package makes sense. I'm just going to sign it. And last year, I was at the spa and, they told me that, oh my gosh, I was like, okay, I have to go. I have a meeting. And they're like, no, but if you sign it after like 2 hours, the promo is going to go. It's our special promo, and all places in Singapore use this trick. And I was just like, you know what? I'm sure you will have other promotions, and even if it's not as good as this one, I will be fine. But I could only, those words and that mindset could only override the subconscious pattern of the Singapore kiasu culture because my nervous system was regulated.
Mm.
So that's
Cool.
how it ties in. And with everything else, I had to make the active choice to recalibrate my system and always ask myself, am I running this from a old pattern and a fear of missing out? Or am I running this from a space of safety? Because survival is trying to protect us and keep us safe. But if you
Mm.
tell your body like that spa example, I am safe even if I don't have this package deal from the spa. There are 1,000 other spas that I could go to.
Mm.
Then your body knows that I'm safe. I no longer need to make decisions from impulse because a lot of our
Mm.
decisions come from impulse.
Yeah, beautiful. That's very true. You can notice that by myself, and literally so many people I meet and work with, like we have kind of, we're all in the same boat a little bit, right? So even though, not many of you guys who are listening in may not be from Singapore, but I'm pretty sure that you've noticed the culture being somewhat similar in your part of the world. And I wonder really, uh, I really love that concept of nervous system regulation and how you made a very clear distinction of, okay, let me kind of try to catch it when it's happening and then redirect. What do you feel like? What was one of the, let's say, if somebody would notice, oh my God, damn, clearly I'm dysregulated all the damn time. Um, what would you what would you tell them? Like, what kind of exercise or experiment would you give them so that they can actually start getting more, feeling that the nervous system relax a little more and regulate? Because I understand the point of catching, things, but sometimes it's so impossible to see it that how are you going to catch it? So let's say somebody is in that spot right now. What exercise would help them? What do you think?
So the first few things that I did that helped me was carve out 10 minutes every day where you are just alone with your thoughts.
Mm,
Because that is actually something that we miss the most or we forget the most, that because we are always surrounded by people or we're always talking to someone digitally through our mobile phones, that we're not actually spending time with our own mind. So the first thing I would say is get connected to your own mind, because your mind is the one that is making the decisions, whether on subconscious patterns or conscious patterns. So what you're
mm,
trying to move from is subconscious patterns,
mm,
whether it's the way you've been running your life or whether it's inherited patterns from your parents or ancestors, to conscious patterns. So the first few things that I did was, so I've always had a meditation practice, which was very beneficial to me. But beyond my meditation practice, what helped was just 10 minutes every day in nature. And in this 10 minutes every day, so it's a practice called grounding. And even if, let's say, you are not in a place that has nature around you, you can also just hang out with the sky and the stars at night by yourself.
mm,
That's also a way to just connect with nature. So without my phone, 10 minutes every day, I would just sit with my mind and ask and just let thoughts run through my mind. And I would catch myself and see which thoughts are reoccurring.
mm,
And because a lot of times we are just repeating the same thoughts that came the day before, the day before, the day before. And I would ask myself, does this serve me? If it doesn't serve me, I would just be like, you know what? I'm releasing you into the ground if I'm in nature. If I'm hanging out with the stars and the moon, I'll just be like, I'm releasing you into the sky.
mm,
And you can do whichever visual imagery works for you. I like the balloon, I like the clouds. Uh, and even if, let's say, that is too much for you, one thing that I love to do is, so I have a cup of water it's a little hard to see anyway with this
Mm,
background, but I just have a cup of water and I start my day by drinking that. And on my cup, I put a sticker called gratitude on it. So every morning and every night, I drink that water, and that just allows me to pause and slow down by practicing gratitude for what I already have. Because a lot of times in survival mode, you're focusing on what you don't have. So you're focusing on lack. Oh my God, I don't have that handbag. Oh my God, I don't have that 4 clients I'm supposed to sign this month.
mm,
But if you start focusing on gratitude, you're making your nervous system feel safe, right? Even if it's simple things like, I'm grateful that I woke up with energy today. I'm grateful that I woke up with a roof over my head. You're telling your body and sending signals every day, whether morning or night, or multiple times a day,
mm,
that you are safe, you are safe. So you're slowly taking your subconscious brain out of survival mode. And the
mm,
more you feel safe in your body and mind, the less you start seeking self worth outside.
mm,
So, even last year when I started my business, I felt like I remember telling Toma, oh, I only signed 3 clients because I felt like I didn't meet my goal. I was supposed to sign 6 clients. I only
mm,
signed 3. And I, as much as Toma told me that is freaking brilliant, I still felt like I wasn't good enough because my goal was 6.
mhm,
So, but this year I can tell you that I've not signed a single client and I feel super successful because I've got to do other projects that
mhm,
bring me so much joy, or I'm working on something else to that will really impress and benefit the clients that work with me. So because now I feel safe in my body and I'm not trying to prove to anyone. I remember even Toma told me, do you want to shift the timelines? And I told Toma, I love you, but I'm not even putting a timeline of myself because I don't want to have like this goal where
mm.
I'm pitching my validation through the number of people I sign.
Nice. That's a beautiful one. Cheers to that for sure. Mhm. Very cool. Thank you for that. I think that's a really beautiful exercise that people can take right away into their day, and it makes a huge difference, especially because we always talk about we sometimes look for like the more complicated thing, like, oh, I need
Mm,
to know something else. But what I see is that we already know what we need to know. It's just that we don't practice it. So thank you for bringing it to the attention of what it will really do. Now let's connect this a little bit with emotional wealth, right? Because let's say you regulate the nervous system, and slowly you're jumping out of survival mode, and you feel successful regardless of what's happening on the outside, which is super nice.
mm.
Such a brilliant experience of life without anything occurring that needs to be specific on the outside, right? Um, yeah, how does that tie into emotional wealth for you? Like, where do you see the connection there, and how does that then play out financially speaking?
For me, it is very interconnected because emotional wealth is how safe and successful you feel with money.
Hmm.
And if you feel, and if your self-worth is not tied to a certain number or a certain success metric, as a entrepreneur, business owner, it is, I would say, the litmus test of how fast you bounce back
Hmm.
from whatever has happened. Because as an entrepreneur, business owner, brand owner, there will always be times where things are not going the way that you envisioned it to play out. So
Hmm.
if you have that mental clarity, that joy, that gratitude, that self-worth, you are able to bounce back and pivot faster because you
Hmm.
have resilience and grit.
Hmm.
And your mind will always be looking at opportunity and be like, how, like, what else can I do? Like, how can I do this differently? Because you have that ability that, you know what, if this didn't work out, I meant to do something else. You're not getting sucked into that rabbit hole of victim energy. You are more into creator energy. And I always believe that money is an energy. And Ken Honda also says this, where money is a friend, money is a person. So for those of you that don't know Ken Honda, he's very commonly known as Happy Money because he has created this concept called arigato money, where you look at money as your friend. And the rationale behind that is because all of us have energy. And if we look at money as an energy, it is something that is passed between human beings, right? And everything in society is a relationship. Whether you are buying from a brand, a food brand, or a coach, it is a relationship with that brand. It's a relationship with that coach. It's a relationship with maybe your AI tech provider.
Hmm.
And if everything is built around human relationships, then it's an energy exchange. So money is always in circulation, and it can only come back to you if you let it flow. But you need to feel happy and safe to let it flow. And your channel needs to be open to
Hmm.
release it and to let it come back into your life. So I remember Ken telling this to me, that whenever you spend money, always just talk to it and say, please come back with your friends. Like almost like it's having a party with you, like, hey, I'm
Nice.
inviting you to my house party. And this was a couple of years ago when I met Ken for dinner. And I think at that point in time, I wasn't fully into the energetics of money. So I didn't really understand it. But now I fully understand it when you combine it with nervous system regulation. Because when you feel safe and you're not spending from a space of like, oh, I deserve it, that's why I have to buy this. But you know what? This is going to bring me joy, or this is going to support another business owner. Or, like, for example, when I invest in Toma as my coach, I know that I'm going to grow as a person. And this ROI is going to get me better relationships, better mental clarity, or better business acumen. Whatever it may be, it's going to be a multiplied effect, and that's why I want to spend that money. And even if it does lead to credit card debt, you know that it's going to come back manifold because you are investing in something that you fully 100% are committed to. And it
Hmm.
comes from a space of safety.
Mhm. Beautiful. Thank you for
So,
sharing that. Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
can I briefly interject here because you
yeah,
mentioned debt for a moment, and I know quite some people in the audience who may be listening and are possibly in debt or
yeah.
are on the way out, and I know that you reverse the cycle for yourself. You reverse the cycle from going deeper into debt into the other direction, which is a really
Mm.
difficult one to make, if you're really honest about it. How did you do it?
To be honest, it was a very painful journey,
Hmm.
but I came out of it so much clearer and not only proud of myself, but I realized, wow, not only can I do hard things, but all of the things that seemingly brought me safety and joy actually were not the metrics for it. So I did, so what I did first was, again, with everything in life, if you don't plan for it, there's the saying, if you don't plan for it, then you plan to fail.
Mhm.
So I wrote down every single expense that I have on a monthly basis. And maybe some of you are great at tracking expenses. This is something that I've never done in my life because I always had a job. So I was like, yeah, I get a paycheck every month. My credit score is incredible. I can get any bank loan that I want. And again, that's a very slippery slope. Once you know that banks are willing to give you any amount of loan, you're like, yeah, even if I keep spending more, I can just keep getting a bigger loan, and I can pay it whenever. So I said the first thing I need to do is, yes, not forget making money and going into surplus. I just want to get myself to net zero. That's the goal. Just net zero, no debt. That was just the goal. So I wrote down every single expense, and I mean like every single minute expense. Even my Netflix and YouTube subscription was listed. So every dollar that I was spending, I wasn't tracking it on a daily basis, but I just made a monthly list of like, where do all of my expenses go? And when I did that, I said, what is not necessary for the goal of net zero? What was not necessary was holidays. What was not necessary was Netflix subscription. YouTube ads, I can handle. I'm not going to cry if YouTube pops up an ad. I was like, so YouTube premium has to go. Like all these micro things, I just, and in my head, I was just like, Mukti, you're really being really silly. Like, YouTube premium costs like $10 a month. Like, is it going to like change like, your debt, which is like thousands of dollars? But I was like, no, until net zero, no subscriptions whatsoever. So the subscriptions were the first thing that had to go. Uh, I told Toma that, Toma, I'm in debt. It's not that I don't love you or I don't love working with you, but I want to work with you from 2026 onwards once I'm net zero. And again, because that's what a great coach is. They're not going to push another offer. They're going to be like, I understand. I'm proud of you. See you in 2026. So that's what I did. And of course, yeah, I also started selling a few more things from my wardrobe. But I realized the first thing that selling things, there's always going to be a cap, right? Because you're not solving the main problem. The main problem is your expenses. And I had gotten very used to, I would say, a very privileged life, which was being part of exclusive member clubs that are also very expensive to maintain, taking private transport everywhere, um, going for concerts, holidays, dining at nice restaurants. And again, the fear of judgment creeps in that if I'm not seen at these exclusive places, who am I? Because my identity was tied to Mukti's always at these private member clubs. Mukti knows the latest restaurants. Mukti, if there's like if Taylor Swift is in Singapore, of course Mukti is going to go and see a Taylor Swift concert. But all of these things are pricey. And in your head, it's like, oh, it's a one-off expense. It's a one-off expense. But it all adds up. So I cut all the subscriptions. And for a month, I was actually really sad and I didn't know who I was because I was like, who am I without all of these subscriptions? And I know it might seem very trivial, but my identity was tied to all of these things. And I started telling friends, not in a place of from a place of shame, because that's where even your self-confidence comes in. I was just like, I'm happy to meet, but let's meet for tea instead. Or and I think a lot of it comes from how you express it to people. I wasn't expressing it from a space of victim energy, like, oh no, I can't afford this restaurant because of my current situation. I would just be like, hey, why don't we go somewhere cheap and chirpy, and try out and, meet at the hawker center or meet at Coffee Bean or Tim Hortons instead of uh, like a fancy place. And people were fine with it. But in my head, I had tied my environment to these places because, again, these places validated my self-worth. And once I removed myself from these places, something interesting really happened. Not only that I feel more confident in who I am as a person, a few months after I had cut my memberships to these places, they actually reached out and said that we really miss you and we miss your energy and you're such a valuable a valuable person to our community. We would love to have you back. And if your friendships are true, you are true to yourself, the people and places that are meant for you will come back into your life. And the people and places that were not meant for me, I am so glad that I got a chance to detox them from my life.
Totally. Yeah, because wow. And and it worked. So it sounds like a very painful journey, but also a very helpful one. Yeah. I remember doing that actually myself. I was like, clearly I'm what is happening with my business, you know? Like I'm making more than ever, but I'm spending more than ever. Like what is going on? For me, it was like definitely downward trajectory, and it was so crazy because it almost felt like the expenses are impossible to cut, you know? And yeah, it's pretty wild. So very excited, and thank you for sharing that because sometimes it's also different for people who are employed and people who are business owners, right? And you kind of you're in both shoes a little bit, right, at the same
Mm.
time, and that can be really nice to understand because it's not just the worlds function a little differently on either of those, and yeah, just super excited to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, on that note of being a business owner, so when I started my company, I was just subscribing and paying for things that I thought a business owner should have. And yes, they were not that expensive in like the grand scheme of things, which things like a virtual assistant. I was like, obviously, I'm a business owner. I need a
Mhm.
virtual assistant because that's what
Mhm.
business owners do.
That's right.
I'm a business owner. I need to
Mhm.
have an accounting software. I'm a
Mhm.
business owner. I need to have a private email address, which you pay subscriptions for. I
Mhm.
just, and the list kept going on with, and as business owners, I'm sure you know that as a business owner, to seem like like I am somebody and with authority, I gotta have a personal assistant. I gotta have um like some kind of registration. I gotta have a fancy website. I need to hire this designer. I mean, I even paid someone to do my business cards because I was like, that's what you do as a business owner. So with everything and every cost, I had justified it. And when I was doing this net zero, I cut all of it. I let go of my virtual assistant. I
Mhm.
started doing a lot of admin work myself, and I got rid of like the paid email. Again, I was like, oh, I need to have a .com. How can I have a Gmail? People are not going to take me seriously with a Gmail, right?
Mhm.
But again, it's all of these things where you are justifying the self-worth of yourself or your brand
Mhm.
through through all of these things. And I
External
remember
means, yeah.
now that I look at my messages from my clients that I was speaking to last year, because I had a personal assistant, I would be so proud and I'd be like, my personal assistant will schedule this with you. My personal assistant will follow up with
Yeah,
this.
nice.
Right? And
Mhm.
then now this year, when I'm doing all of these scheduling myself, I'm realizing that firstly, these people don't care. In fact, it's actually much more of a troublesome thing that they have to talk to my personal assistant
Mhm.
um, to be able to like schedule a meeting with me. And it actually would prolong and the meeting would get scheduled much later rather than sooner.
Mhm.
I was I was feeling I was justifying this pride of I am finally a business owner because I have VAs and PAs.
Yeah, totally. I can very much relate to that. The there because there is very much a justifiable voice inside your head of everything is an investment,
Yeah.
and there is no sometimes with the hope of making
Mm,
it back. And
yeah.
that hope doesn't work because hope is not a plan, as you said. If it's not planned, it just doesn't happen. And so sometimes that happens too in the process. You kind of fool yourself into it, and your expenses keep growing and out of control actually sometimes. And you're like, well, okay, clearly I need to close down shop because I overdid it. Cool, beautiful. Mukti, how about we? Is there anything else you would like to share when it comes to emotional wealth? Because sometimes I know, especially with in your context, just to wrap up the conversation, you have a lot of people who have multiple jobs. They run basically life like a treadmill, nervous system unregulated 24/7, essentially,
Mm,
regardless of how, and they have businesses too, you know.
mm.
So what would you share with your people? Because I bet they're listening as well, and they probably will appreciate the one or the other tip on how to step into more emotional wealth in their life, even if they have multiple jobs.
So I actually had this conversation with someone just yesterday who runs multiple jobs. She's actually my beauty therapist. So I had a beauty appointment yesterday, and She is, she's expanding her business, has multiple jobs, very typical profile of someone in this society. And she's been having severe health issues for the past few months. And I just asked her one question. Are you building this for the next 10 years, or are you just building this for the next 1 year? This shop that you want to own, this business expansion, like this money that you want to bring into your life, is it just for the next 1 year? Is it a short-term goal, or is it a long-term legacy brand that you're building? If it's a short-term goal and you're like, look, I just got to put my kids into school, then I would say that is a priority. Yes, your nervous system is dysregulated, but that is not the priority right now. Your kids going to school is much more important than your nervous system being regulated. And you know that after my kids going to school, I can focus on this. But
Mm,
if you are building something which you're like, this is going to be my legacy, this is going to be my 10-year, 20-year game plan, then the foundation has to be right. If not, imagine if, let's say, you are at chapter 5 and you break down. You've just lost 5 years of building something beautiful because now you maybe have an illness that you just have to stop everything for. But
mm,
if you are building something for the rest of your life, isn't it worthwhile to spend 1 year on the foundation, even if it means making less money in the first year? But it's like the house, right? Are you building it on a strong, solid foundation of bricks? And yes, you can only live in your dream house 1 year later because the construction is taking longer. Or are you
mm,
just going to live in this because it's a rental apartment and you just want to make money so that you can travel the world next year? What is
mm.
the house that you are building for? So if you have clarity on what kind of house are you building for, then it makes more sense, even as a business owner, to justify, why am I focusing on my nervous system? Why am I focusing on my health? Because your health is directly going to be linked to your business wealth.
Beautiful. I love it so much. Thank you for this amazing conversation. Before we go, I'd love to make a little summary of everything we went through. But before I do that, where can people find you and connect with you?
So you can find me on my Instagram, Mukti Joy. I also have a website, which is themindfulnesseducator.com. If you want to reach out to me personally, Toma has my contact details. So he can always pass you my personal contact if you did want to have a chat with me. But those are the two ways to reach out. I always share fun things from my life because I always believe that life is meant to be enjoyed. And
Mm,
even if you look at the energy frequency scale, play and joy is actually the highest vibration. And if you find a way, and I also believe in this, that joy and play is a business strategy. And that's
mm,
why me and Toma really align with each other, because his brand is called Castle Magic, where
mm,
joy, play, relationships, human relationships are also a core part of how his brand and his business functions. So you don't imagine just like, I always have this image that, and this is how I function my business. Do I want to be rich and having this amazing house and I'm just alone on the table and there's no one around me?
mm,
And I'm living in this beautiful castle. Or do I want to live in this wonderful house? It might not be a castle where, princesses and prince live, but it's still a beautiful villa house
mm.
that I call my own. And on that table, I have 12 friends or 12 business partners, and we are all laughing and having the time of our life. I would choose the second image because that would mean a life well lived and a life where you are sharing and genuinely proud of that. Yes, I've made my life with joy and relationships. And when I die, I will have these wonderful memories and people who will remember me by the relationships rather than people who will remember me that, oh yeah, she used to drive around the city in a Rolls Royce and no one could talk to her.
So nice. Thank you so much, Mukti. That's what a beautiful story. I'll try to attempt for our listeners. You guys can been with us until now. Thank you so much for listening. I'll give you a shot to summarize a little bit our conversation so you can take it home with you. We went through a couple different areas of how, Mukti's story of basically how she made it into a school by applying 20, 30 times. That's still like unbelievable. I really, so if you're out there and you're applying to jobs and you get one rejection, no, that's just the beginning. And don't give up until people know who you are, if that's the place you really want to connect with. Then we talked about how basically one can get into debt through different means of trying to seek external validation. How your subconscious patterns can really get you into trouble in case that's been the thing in your family or your ancestry, and essentially you kind of get into a pattern of trying to satisfy your internal lack of a sense of freedom and sense of validation. You try to get it through external means, and by buying other stuff outside or whatever else you're trying to get. And how you can reverse that through your own nervous system regulation by, well, first of all, hydrating, so nice, and also through gratitude by teaching your system that you're safe any time of the day and creating that that regular frequency within that. It's all fine, and you don't really need to survive unless there's a you said there's a short-term goal where you do,
Mm.
then go for it. But normally it's not quite like that. Our system often like plays the survival mode despite us actually being all right at the moment. And so taking those few but really important steps, plugging that into your day, can really make a difference over the long term, because then what happens next is you notice that, okay, I have different ways of how I've been relating to my money, emotional wealth. I've basically been expending money everywhere because I felt this was cool. But what I did do also was leaking money. And you share with us how making a very clear, setting a very clear goal and an intention can be really helpful when you map everything and you just kind of shed one mask after the other and just be honest with yourself where you're at, while at the same time connecting with others on that level too, and how that actually builds better relationships. Wow, there's so much in this conversation, Mukti. I can't believe like we covered so much ground, and I'm just really excited. I've been always excited about the brand you'll build actually, because you have these incredible abilities. I think when people hang out with you, when I hang out with you personally, I noticed always that you have on an energetic level like so much capacity to really help. Where I'm like, this is just unbelievable, which explains also why you have so many amazing relationships with people who are playing at a pretty high level when it comes to outer wealth and success. But I can see that you've built that inside. Any last words
Amazing.
for our audience? Yeah.
I wanted, not really last words, but I wanted to share something on the note that Thomas said, that I have a lot of amazing high level friends in my network, and how I've been very lucky to be surrounded by these people. And one thing that I've learned from a lot of these people, which who are billionaires and multimillionaires, is that until you have inner self-worth, you're going to keep chasing. Because a lot of these millionaires and billionaires, because their nervous system is dysregulated, I have friends who have so many cars and so many Ferraris where their house doesn't even have space for it, but they're still working themselves to the ground and don't have love in their life, don't have uh, good friendships, have lost all their friends because they are still working from survival. So if you do not work on the safety in your body, no amount of money in that bank account, whether it's 1 million or 1 billion, you're going to keep chasing. So I would say find that joy within. You need to have, and once you find that joy within, not only, a lot of people ask me, how do you become friends with these people? And for me, it's because I have self-worth and I have the joy within. It not only makes you more creative, it makes you more magnetic to people because your aura doesn't have that mask. And
Mm.
it naturally invites people. And just think about it. If people, if let's say you're like, oh, I just want to be surrounded by rich people. Most rich people, I won't say all of them, but a lot of them lack inner confidence and inner self-worth because they've again been perpetuating this idea of I need all of these masks to feel fulfilled. And when you have something that they don't, they naturally want to work with you because you can help them heal something that they genuinely need. So look, if, let's say if that's your goal, I want to solve problems for rich people, which I know as a in like the coaching institutes, that's kind of one of the first few things they tell us. Find people with money and solve their problem. Well, that's a really good problem to solve because then you also improve yourself and improve your life while trying to solve a rich person's problem.
Mm. Totally. Thank you so much, Mukti. What a beautiful conversation. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you soon on the next Castle Magic podcast.